What if the problem isn't that you lack motivation, but that you follow your emotions too much? What if the strongest people aren't the ones who hustle harder, but the ones who pause before reacting? And what if 2025 could be the year you become unshakable? Not by grinding harder, but by going stoic. This isn't another hype-filled pep talk. This is a path, built on ancient wisdom, to develop crazy discipline in a chaotic world. The Stoics knew something we forgot, that the strongest people are not those who conquer others, but those who conquer themselves. So if you're tired of inconsistency, distraction, and failure to follow through, this is for you. Let's begin the transformation. Chapter 1. Why you don't have discipline. The real reason. You don't lack discipline because you're lazy. You lack discipline because your emotions run the show. That's not an insult, it's an insight. If you were truly lazy, you wouldn't even care enough to want discipline in the first place. The desire is there. The problem is that your mind has been conditioned to respond to discomfort by escaping it. Let's go deeper. When discomfort hits, you scroll. When pressure builds, you procrastinate. When doubt whispers, you retreat. And when criticism stings, you shut down. Why? Because these reactions give your mind short-term relief. But what they cost you is long-term strength. The modern world is built to reinforce this escape loop. Social media, instant gratification, clickbait content, emotional overdrive, all designed to keep you reacting, not reflecting. It rewards your impulses, not your intentions. But here's the Stoic truth. Discipline isn't about always doing hard things. It's about doing what's right, especially when you don't feel like it. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his journal, later known as Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't writing that to show off. He was reminding himself daily that the source of his power was not the throne, but his ability to choose his response. That's where discipline starts, the moment between stimulus and response. That microsecond where you decide whether you'll act from impulse or from values. Let's imagine a common scenario. You've promised to get up early and work on your goals, but the alarm goes off and your body says, "Stay in bed, rest, you deserve it." At that moment, you have two options: obey the emotion, observe the emotion, and choose the intention. This is the battlefield of discipline. It doesn't happen once a year, it happens dozens of times every day. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And most of that waste, it doesn't come from laziness. It comes from emotional slavery, being ruled by fear, resistance, craving, and ego. So if you've struggled with discipline, stop calling yourself weak. Instead, recognize you've been misled, trained to follow your emotions as if they were commands, but they're not. They're suggestions. You can pause, you can challenge, you can redirect, and once you realize that your emotions are not your ruler, everything changes. Now the question becomes, how do we pause? How do we create space between the trigger and the choice? That's exactly what we'll explore next. Let's move into the principle the Stoics use to reclaim their power in chaotic moments, the pause. Chapter 2, Pause, Power. In the last chapter, we uncovered a core truth. Your lack of discipline isn't due to laziness. It's because you let emotions lead the way. But what if you could interrupt that emotional momentum in real time? That's where this next Stoic insight comes in. The pause, Epictetus famously taught, "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them." Those words carry a quiet power, because in every triggering moment, when you're about to lash out, give up, scroll endlessly, or numb yourself, you have an option. One small, often invisible option: to pause. The pause is the most underrated superpower in the modern world. It's a soft shield that protects you from becoming a puppet of your emotions. And in that pause, you reclaim your agency. Let's paint a real-world picture. You get an email that frustrates you. Maybe it's critical, maybe it feels unfair. Your body reacts instantly. A spike in heart rate, tension in your chest, heat rising in your neck. Before the pause, you might reply with snark, or close your laptop in disgust, or storm out to vent. But with the pause, you feel that first wave rise and you don't ride it. You breathe, you blink, you step back. You realize, this is just an emotional surge, not a verdict on who I am. This is what the Stoics trained for. They weren't immune to emotion. They were masters of the space between the emotion and the action. And that space, that's where discipline is born. The pause is your recalibration point, the brief window where you choose alignment over impulse, long-term values over short-term relief. And it doesn't have to take hours, it can be 5 seconds. 5 seconds that save you from 5 hours of regret. Here's how you build that pause into your daily life. Name the emotion. Instead of saying, I'm angry, say, I notice anger is arising. This slight shift detaches you from the emotion. You are not the emotion. You are the observer of it. Anchor to the breath. 3 deep, conscious breaths reset your nervous system. It sounds simple, but it's scientifically sound. You deactivate your fight or flight mode and return to your rational self. Ask the Stoic questions. What would my highest self do here? Will this matter in a week, a month, a year? Is this response aligned with the kind of person I want to become? When you build this pause into your muscle memory, you become someone new, someone calm when others are chaotic, someone reflective when others are reactive. Seneca said, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Every time you pause, you're enduring that friction and refining your character. Let's take another example. You're in the gym. You're tired. Halfway through your reps, your mind says, we've done enough. That's the old script. But with a pause, you ask, is this fatigue or just resistance speaking? Maybe you rest for 30 seconds and then finish strong. The pause doesn't make you soft. It makes you deliberate. It lets you respond instead of react. And it prevents the sabotage that ruins most people's goals. Even in high-stakes situations, an argument with your partner, a difficult decision at work, a financial setback, the pause gives you time to choose character over chaos. You'll know you're growing when you start noticing the pause in the middle of discomfort and actually choose to stay in it. That's when you stop being at the mercy of emotion and start embodying the power of discipline. Now you may be asking, but what about when the emotions are so strong, I feel like I have to act? That's where our next chapter leads us. Because while the pause helps us stop and breathe, we still need a deeper understanding. What if emotions are not meant to be followed at all? Let's explore that provocative idea next. Chapter 3. Emotions are not instructions. In the last chapter, we uncovered the power of the pause, that sacred space between impulse and action. But what exactly are we pausing from? More often than not, it's our emotions. That brings us to a fundamental Stoic insight that changes the entire game. Your emotions are not instructions. This might sound obvious, but in the heat of daily life, we forget it all the time. You feel fear, you freeze, you feel boredom, you scroll, you feel frustration, you snap. We act as if emotions are urgent commands that must be obeyed. But the Stoics believed, and modern neuroscience confirms, that emotions are temporary waves, not mandates. Let's get clear on this. Emotions are real, but they are not always true. They deserve your attention, not your obedience. Seneca said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Our emotions magnify imagined threats. They exaggerate slights. They invent meanings that may not exist. And if you accept every emotional message without question, you become a slave to momentary moods. The Stoics practiced something radical, emotional clarity. They didn't suppress emotion, they observed it. They didn't judge emotion, they dissected it. They didn't run from emotion, they trained through it. Let's use an example. Say you feel overwhelmed, your heart races, your breath shortens. Your mind says, I can't do this. Now pause. Ask yourself, is that a fact or is it just a feeling? Can you challenge it? Can you breathe through it? Can you move with it instead of because of it? That's Stoic discipline. You feel angry? It doesn't mean you need to yell. You feel inadequate? It doesn't mean you need to shrink. You feel anxious? It doesn't mean you should avoid. Emotions may have evolved to help us survive, but if left unchecked, they'll prevent us from thriving. Here's a tool the Stoics would have loved: emotional labeling. When a strong emotion hits, don't say, "I am angry." Say, "I notice anger." This small change in language creates psychological distance. It reminds your brain, you are the observer, not the emotion. Modern CBT therapy echoes this Stoic wisdom. Labeling reduces emotional intensity. It makes you more mindful, less reactive. Another Stoic practice? Premeditatio malorum, the visualization of adversity. They imagined failure, setbacks, insult, illness before they happened, not to depress themselves, but to train their emotional endurance. So when the real thing occurred, they weren't surprised. Their nervous system had already rehearsed calm. This isn't about being robotic. It's about choosing reason over reflex. Discipline flourishes when you stop confusing emotional noise with rational necessity. You can feel like quitting and still keep going. You can feel insecure and still show up. You can feel afraid and still take action, because emotion is a passenger in the car, but you're still the driver. Let's not confuse this with coldness. Stoics felt deeply, but they didn't let feeling override clarity. Marcus Aurelius lost children, fought wars, buried friends. He grieved, but he still showed up. He felt, but he still chose. This is emotional maturity. This is Stoic strength. This is the root of crazy discipline. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Is it based in truth or in fear? What would my wisest self do right now? You don't need to banish emotions. You need to break their monopoly on your behavior. That's how you stay consistent when others fold. That's how you keep showing up when others collapse. That's how you build a life that isn't dictated by moods, but guided by principles. And now that you understand this emotional detachment, you're ready to build something even more powerful, an internal compass that keeps you steady, no matter the storm. Let's talk next about building your inner scorecard. Chapter 4, the inner scorecard. In the last chapter, we learned how emotions can scream louder than logic, but we also learned that they're not in charge unless we let them be. That shift in power gives rise to a deeper question. If emotions aren't our compass, what is? That's where the inner scorecard comes in. Imagine this: two people show up at the gym. One is motivated by how they'll look in a mirror or how many likes they'll get on Instagram. The other shows up because it's a commitment to themselves, a reflection of their values. Who do you think shows up more consistently when no one is watching? That's the difference between the outer scorecard and the inner scorecard. The outer scorecard is built on praise, status, comparison. Did I get the promotion? Did they like my post? Am I ahead of my peers? The inner scorecard is built on integrity. Did I keep my word? Did I grow today? Did I live in alignment with who I want to be? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That insight hits hard because it's timeless. We constantly outsource our worth to the world. But what if we stopped keeping score based on applause and started measuring progress by character? The Stoics didn't chase attention. They chased virtue. And virtue isn't loud, it doesn't go viral, but it makes you powerful in a way nothing else can. Let's look at a practical example. Say you have a goal to read every night before bed, but you're tired, and no one will know if you skip. The outer scorecard whispers, "No one's watching, it's fine." But the inner scorecard says, "You said you would, and your word matters." Each time you honor your inner scorecard, you strengthen identity-based discipline. You go from trying to be consistent to being someone who is. This is key for 2025, because your goals will be tested not just by obstacles, but by invisible temptations: comfort, convenience, ego. So here's how to build your inner scorecard. Define your core values. What matters most to you? Courage, truth, discipline, service? Choose 3. Write them down. This is your compass. Create daily rituals that honor those values. If discipline is a value, commit to doing something hard every day, especially when it's inconvenient. If truth is a value, commit to honest conversations, especially when silence would be easier. Reflect nightly. Ask yourself, did I live according to my values today? This is not about shame. It's about recalibration. Over time, you'll feel something shift. You won't need motivation as much. You'll stop seeking applause. You'll care less about who's watching, because you'll know you are watching. And that's enough. This isn't to say you'll never slip. The Stoics did too. But they had the humility to reflect and the courage to begin again. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." That's what the inner scorecard is really about. Not perfection, but alignment. So, the next time you make a tough choice, pause and ask, am I making this decision from ego or from integrity? Is this aligned with who I claim to be? If no one ever found out, would I still be proud? That's when you know your compass is set, and when your compass is clear, your discipline becomes sustainable. You stop chasing dopamine hits and start building a legacy. But even a strong compass can't help you without a solid identity behind it. And that's where we're heading next. Let's explore how to build the discipline identity that endures. We ended the last chapter by exploring how your values guide your actions. But values are just the beginning. To stay disciplined long-term, you must embody an identity that reflects those values. Because here's the radical truth: people don't act against their identity for long. They either change their behavior or their story about who they are. So if you're telling yourself, I'm trying to be disciplined, what you're really saying is, I'm someone who's not yet disciplined. That subtle identity undermines you. It puts discipline on the outside, like something you're chasing. But if you want consistency in 2025, you need to bring discipline inside, into your identity. Say instead, I am someone who shows up no matter what. I am someone who does hard things. I am someone who honors commitments to myself. That's where it changes. Let's unpack this with a simple model, the identity loop. Belief, behavior, evidence. Stronger belief. When you act in a disciplined way, even once you gather evidence, that evidence reinforces the belief, I am disciplined. That belief fuels more disciplined behavior, and so the loop strengthens. Every workout completed, every journal entry written, every urge resisted, it all counts. Even the tiny ones, especially the tiny ones, because small wins build a solid identity. Think of the Stoics. They didn't talk about virtue as something they hoped to achieve. They practiced it daily. They wrote it, lived it, breathed it. Epictetus didn't say, try to be strong. He said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This is the cornerstone of Stoic identity. Being is built by doing. Here are 3 practical ways to build your discipline identity. Create identity-based affirmations. Every morning say, I am disciplined, I do what I say I'll do, I follow through even when it's uncomfortable. It may feel awkward at first, but your brain listens. Stack small wins early in the day. Make your bed, drink water, move your body. These aren't cliches, they're identity cues. They tell your nervous system, this is who we are. Journal your victories. At night, ask, what did I do today that proves I'm becoming who I say I am? Write it down, lock it in, build the story. And here's a bonus insight. Every time you resist something easy, you cast a vote for your future self. Didn't hit snooze? That's a vote. Didn't scroll during work? Another vote. Didn't skip the workout? You're building. You're no longer chasing a disciplined goal. You're becoming a disciplined person. It's not about perfection. It's about momentum. And once you adopt this identity, you stop negotiating with yourself. You don't ask, should I do this? You say, this is what I do. That identity becomes armor in tough moments. It carries you through when motivation fades. It whispers, this is who we are now. So as you reflect on 2025, ask, who is the most disciplined version of me? What do they do? What don't they do? How do they think? What do they stand for? And then start living as that person. Today, the Stoics didn't wait for ideal conditions. They practiced under pressure. They showed up on bad days. That's identity in action. And speaking of practice, discipline isn't built on motivation. It's built on systems. So in the next chapter, we'll give you the Stoic operating manual for discipline, a daily practice that works, rain or shine after. Shaping your identity as a disciplined person, the next step is creating a system that supports it. Because identity without practice is fantasy. The Stoics didn't just talk about values, they trained them daily with deliberate structure. That's why the secret to lasting discipline lies in what you do every single day. The modern world is obsessed with goals, but goals are distant. Daily practice is immediate. And for the Stoics, what you do today matters more than what you hope to do someday. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal occasionally, he wrote every morning. Seneca didn't reflect once a month, he reviewed himself nightly. These weren't self-help habits. They were discipline rituals that anchored their minds. So let's build your own. Here's a Stoic-inspired daily discipline framework that's flexible, timeless, and deeply effective. Morning. Set your intention. The day hasn't begun yet, but your mind already has. Before the distractions hit, before the noise, carve a sacred 5 minutes to direct your focus. Ask yourself, what is one challenge I expect today, and how will I respond with virtue? What emotional trap might I fall into, and how can I pause when it arrives? This is called premeditatio malorum, imagining adversity before it hits. You're not attracting negativity, you're preparing resilience. Visualize the client who'll be difficult, the cravings that might distract you, the boredom during your afternoon task. Now mentally rehearse calm. This single practice gives you a massive edge. Then remind yourself, I don't control the outcome, I control my effort, I control my response. That's Stoic priming. It doesn't make the day easier, it makes you stronger. Midday. Realign your action by noon. Life has already tested you. Maybe you slipped, maybe you crushed it. Either way, it's time to check back in. Pause, breathe, ask, am I acting from emotion or intention? Have I drifted from my inner scorecard? What needs my calm attention now? You don't need an hour. You need awareness. Even one mindful minute realigns your momentum. That's why the Stoics emphasized awareness over perfection. You're not trying to be flawless. You're trying to stay awake. Recenter with this affirmation. I return to reason. I return to values. I return to who I choose to be. Evening. Reflect without judgment. The day ends, but the learning begins. Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed, I examine my entire day." This wasn't guilt-ridden self-scolding. It was surgical introspection. Here's your evening ritual. What did I do well today? Where did I act from fear, ego, or impulse? What lesson will I apply tomorrow? Write it, say it, own it. The Stoics didn't expect moral perfection. They expected moral progress. And progress only comes with daily feedback. Even if you fell short, reflecting with clarity, not shame, keeps you moving, because each day is a training session for the soul. Putting it together, the Stoic discipline stack. Morning. Intentional rehearsal of virtue 2. Midday, realignment with presence. Evening, reflection for refinement. Repeat this for 30 days, and your discipline will stop feeling like effort and start feeling like identity. You'll notice less reactivity, more consistency, a quiet pride in who you're becoming, and when life gets chaotic, this structure grounds you. When others burn out, you burn steady, because discipline isn't something you force. It's something you build through rhythm. But there's one more key insight. You must stop waiting for motivation, because in the Stoic playbook, motivation is unreliable. That's where we go next. Let's talk about how to act with or without feeling like it, and build the ultimate freedom. Chapter 7. Don't wait for motivation, build rituals. Instead, in the last chapter, we talked about the rhythm of daily Stoic practice, morning, midday, and evening reflections that ground your discipline. But what if there's a day when you just don't feel like doing any of it? That's exactly where most people fall off track, because they're still waiting for motivation to show up. The Stoic answer? Don't. If you rely on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent because motivation is emotional, it's a mood. It's influenced by sleep, weather, your phone's notifications, or what someone said to you this morning. In short, it's unreliable. But rituals don't care how you feel. The Stoics believed in proeretic psyche, the rational, choosing mind. It doesn't depend on whims. It acts because it is right to act. And that's the discipline you want to cultivate. Let's go deeper. Imagine this. It's a cold, rainy morning. Your alarm goes off at 5:30 a.m. You'd plan to wake early, right? In your journal, stretch and get to work. But you feel groggy, your bed is warm, and motivation nowhere to be found. In that moment, your brain will whisper, "Let's start tomorrow." This is the fork in the road. You can wait for motivation and slip into the old cycle, or rely on a ritual and strengthen your identity. The Stoics would say, don't argue with the feeling, don't suppress it, simply act in accordance with reason. That's why you don't want just discipline. You want rituals that protect your discipline. Let's build that together. Step 1. Make discipline automatic. The less you leave to decision, the more consistent you'll be. Don't ask yourself if you'll write today. Know your writing time is 7 a.m. Don't wonder when to train. Set your workout to start right after lunch. Don't wait until you feel like meditating. Tie it to brushing your teeth. Discipline thrives in predictability. Seneca wrote, "No man was ever wise by chance." He meant it literally. A wisdom like discipline is a system, not an accident. Step 2, stack your rituals. Small, don't try to be heroic. Try to be reliable. Meditate for 2 minutes, not 20. Write 3 sentences, not a chapter. Walk for 5 minutes, not a marathon. Because small rituals repeated consistently, big actions done occasionally. The Stoics knew the value of beginning. Well-being is realized by small steps, but is truly no small thing. Zeno, step 3. Attach rituals to identity. Each ritual should remind you who you are becoming. Drinking water, I honor my body. Writing, I sharpen my mind. Exercising, I train to endure. This makes your ritual sacred, not robotic. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal for content. He wrote to calibrate character. You should too. Step 4. Expect resistance and do it anyway. The Stoics didn't pretend things would be easy. They trained daily for adversity. So when you don't feel like following your ritual, expect that. Smile at the resistance and go forward. Discipline doesn't eliminate resistance. It outlasts it. Rituals are how you act your way into courage instead of waiting to feel brave. And here's the magic. Every time you follow a ritual when you don't feel like it, you forge an unbreakable identity. You become the one who shows up, the one who follows through, the one who keeps promises to themselves. No external motivation required. This is the Stoic way. You don't wait for motivation. You build rituals, you follow them. You repeat, and eventually you become the disciplined person you always wanted to be. So now let's close with the final reflection. You've come this far. You've absorbed these timeless truths. Let's tie it all together. Let's talk about what it really means to own your power in 2025 and beyond. If you want to dominate 2025, don't just build goals. Build your mind. Let others chase hacks. You're going to build Stoic discipline, calm under chaos, logic over emotion, peace without permission. Because the one who controls their mind controls their life. If this message resonated, comment "I choose discipline." Share this with someone who's ready to stop starting over. Like, subscribe. Let's make 2025 the year of emotional mastery. Stay grounded, stay present, and walk the Stoic path.